This is VOCM Open Line. Call 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626. The views and opinions of this program are not necessarily those of this station. The biggest conversation in Newfoundland and Labrador starts now. Here's VOCM Open Line host Paddy Daly.
Well, all right, and good morning to you. Thank you so much for tuning into the program. It's Friday, September the 5th. This is Open Line. I'm your host, Paddy Daly. David Williams, he's producing the Come On with an edition of the show. So, if you're in the St. John's metro region, the number to dial to get in the queue and on the air is 709-273-5211. Elsewhere, toll-free long distance, 1-888-590-VOCM. Which is 86-26. So, championship weekend at the U.S. Open of Tennis. Of course, Canadian Felix Auger-Aliassime taking on world number one Jannik Sinner this evening in the semifinal. Gabby Dabrowski from Ottawa in the finals with the women's doubles today. I bring up the singles one more time because this is a fascinating stat. European men have dominated Grand Slam tennis for a long time. European man has won 83 of the last 84 Grand Slam championships. 83 of the last 84. Amazing stuff. All right, so some 30 years later, for the first time in 30 years, AUS Soccer returns to Memorial Campus's grounds. So the Seahawks men and women in action this weekend against the UPEI Panthers. And I remember when they played on that pretty miserable pitch just alongside the works, but now in that new Canada Games complex, the Fortis Canada Games complex, they're back in action. The women's play Saturday and Sunday at 1 p.m. The men play Saturday and Sunday at 3:30 p.m. Special shout out to my nephew, Ben Collingwood, who's the starting goaltender for the men's Seahawks. So go get him this weekend to the Hawks. Admission's only $5. Kids under 12, free. Congratulations to two locals who are going to crack the starting lineup for the Newfoundland Regiment. So Ben Vitch and Quinn Norman, they're going to be in action, of course, first game September 18th against the defending Q champions, the Moncton Wildcats. Had an opportunity to meet and play golf with young Ben Vitch and Quinn Norman in the Alex Nuhu Classic there a few weeks ago. Lovely young fellas, apparently fantastic hockey players, so congratulations to them. Okay, let's dig into some tourism numbers. You knew full well it was going to be a very busy tourism season. We talked about Marine Atlantic bookings up some 7,000 compared to the year prior. And now we have some numbers that are in. Okay, these are from the department. $1.4 billion in revenue each year, so says the Tourism Minister Fred Hutton. 226,000 visitors came to the province by air or auto through July. That's up 4%. That doesn't even capture August numbers. Auto travel was up 38% from 2019. Air travel slow at the beginning of the year, but July 68,000 visitors. Year-to-date travel to the province by air is up 2% from 2024. We know it's certainly been helpful when we had a direct connection to London and Dublin and Paris, because for visitors coming from the other side of the pond, to have to fly to Halifax or Toronto to fly back to St. John's or Deer Lake or wherever, of course, would not be a good thing. The trick here is how do we maximize the shoulder seasons, as they call it? Hotel occupancy rates way up. 91% in July, 92% in August. That's a 20% increase from August of 2024. Of course, revenues up commensurate to it. Now, how do we get down to busier fall and winters and springs? We know the summers are always going to be robust here for the visitors. And look, it's one thing for us to, travel local, buy local, the staycations, but there's nothing quite like the economic shot in the arm of visitors from elsewhere with their out-of-province money. And the records are pretty clear on this one, too. Visitors from out-of-province spend more than people from the province traveling around their own province or island and or into Labrador. You want to take it on? We can do it. All right, particularly dry summer, and there's a variety of issues that have stemmed from it. For agriculture, for the farmers, now they're talking about, looking for pots of money to try to establish some irrigation, and talking about the obvious fact that if you don't have access to large volumes of water, irrigation is just a pipe dream. So I'd love to hear from a farmer this morning. If you are so inclined and you're listening to the program, want to chime in about how the season has gone for you, because it has been wicked dry. Wildfires. I've been told via email that we've kind of lost track of the devastation left behind in the wake of the wildfires. We haven't. I haven't. I see so many pictures, and it is absolutely devastating. And the conversation about rebuild, we are absolutely happy to have it here on the program today. Of course we are. Then you'll see a bunch of pledges coming in from different politicians and parties, given the fact that we're headed to the polls sooner than later. All right, Tony Wakeham, who's the leader of the PCs, talking about wildfire protection. So it impacted a wide swath of the province. So up in Labrador, here on the Avalon, the Bonavista Peninsula, central Newfoundland, Musgrave Harbour. So talking about the province needs to be prepared. So provide volunteer firefighters with training and equipment to respond to floods and forest fires, medical calls, or other emergencies. Not wrong in that, buying wildland coveralls for just 35 volunteer fire departments as opposed to every volunteer firefighter. Doubling the volunteer firefighter and search and rescue tax credits. Fair enough with me. Maintain a fully operational staffed water bomber fleet. So getting back to that fifth water bomber, there is already a commitment in place to have that fifth water bomber back in by 2027 with the repair contract going to de Havilland. Hire 50 more wildfire firefighters and recruit the wildland firefighters 4 weeks earlier. Fair enough. What's not included in that is some of the things that I hear from people who are involved in forest management, both here in the province and around the country. Preemptive fire breaks, I don't know if that's a realistic thing, but some communities that are perilously close to the forest, maybe we can indeed do it. You can read between the lines with some leadership in Labrador talking about that from last year's fire season. Then the areas that are really prone and all of the windfall and deadfall. I mean, people send me pictures all the time about what is not being cleaned up because that is the fuel, that's the kindling, right? For the fires to be hotter and higher. So we've probably got to figure that out a little bit. In addition to that, we talked about the fact that there's going to be more electric vehicle charging stations along the highway. The usage is way up, so says Newfoundland and Labrador Hydro, some 40%. And then I get questions about electric vehicles and fires. It's a fair point, because when we talk about volunteer firefighters or professional firefighters or people who get paid to be firefighters, I don't know what kind of training is associated with electric vehicle fire and the equipment to put it out and the residue or foam or however they try to put them out. But people continually tell me that the risk of an electric vehicle fire is far higher than the internal combustion engine. The data doesn't show that, though. I mean, we do know electric vehicles have not been around as long as ICEs, but the data says there's significantly lower fire risk. So they do indeed burn hotter. They're harder to put out. So that's why we talk about maybe what kind of training is associated with electric vehicle fires. But the statistical evidence is simply not there. There's a study that I saw some while back that said 25 fires per 100,000 electric vehicles sold compared to 1,500 or more fires with every 100,000 gasoline vehicles sold. So, I think the media does indeed cover those stories far and wide. The container ship with electric vehicles on board and they caught it on fire. They had to abandon it, didn't even try to put it up because it was so hot and intense. But the stats don't show what people continue to tell me. Let's keep going. And I'll keep bringing this one up because it's infuriating to me as a grocery shopper. So, when the sentiment far and wide was to be more conscientious about what we buy, and that was the whole concept of buy local, which is always a pretty good idea. It's your money, you do what you want. But when the grocery stores, the major retailers, even had ad campaigns on TV, talking about pride in the country and products made in Canada or products of Canada, just to find out that through inspection from the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, some of the big retailers, including Sobeys, Loblaws, Metro, and this all happened in downtown Toronto, guaranteed it happened right around the country, they would have these big Product of Canada signs and labels on food. And upon closer inspection of the package itself, it wasn't a product of Canada and it wasn't a product of Mexico. It was a product of the United States. Now, if your favorite food happens to come from the United States, good enough. You do whatever you like. But for the retailers who were, capturing what was a pretty popular sentiment about being more conscientious of what you buy, and then to hoodwink us, this is simply not fair. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency has the ability to levy fines when the retailers are caught doing it. The problem is, even when they caught them, they put forward zero fines. Zero. So if I'm a big corporation, I know profits are going up and revenue's increasing because people are buying what I've deemed and labeled to be Canadian, made in, or product of. What's the likelihood they're going to change, knowing that they ducked and dodged any potential fine in the first place? So as the grocery shopper, that one is infuriating. Congratulations to all hands behind the Vida Novi Recovery Centre. It's probably going to make an appreciable difference here in the province. The timelines between detox and rehab and the supportive measures that will be in place out there, it's out Salmon Line. Grand openings this morning. So people who put their money where their mouth is to open up this particular recovery centre, good on you. For all the staff and the patients who hopefully will find a recovery at Vida Nova, we wish you nothing but the best of luck. All right, I read this story on the Telegram a couple of days ago, and it's about mental health. So, we're told that there's options out there, and you can call 211 or 811 or 888. And this is a very personal story. A lady named Ashley Castle, 39-year-old woman from Cormac. And Ashley, if you're listening, we would certainly welcome your call. I'm not going to get into all the ins and the outs of what's happening in her life with financial stresses and postpartum and the like, but she's struggling and looking for help. Husband had a cardiac arrest, father passed away unexpectedly, all these contributing factors of which many people listening to the program can relate to. So the issue is how she's been treated or not when calling some of these supportive numbers. All right, so for starters, things like when she described her life circumstances and the reaction is, my God, you're having some terrible life, aren't you? Nobody needs someone on the other end of the phone to characterize someone's life or struggles as they've already articulated to them. But then it's the issue about getting a call back. She says that she has left copious numbers of messages, dozens of messages, and not to have a return call. So it's fine to put the supports forward. And you should find that story and read it. It really is kind of bleak. So it's one thing to talk about it, and it's one thing to add these supports, but they've got to work. So insofar as whether it be training for those who are answering the phone or replying to emails or whatever the case may be, not only the appropriate level of training, which I don't know what training is involved here, but to hear from Ashley, maybe not what it needs to be. So, of course, we're happy to keep mental health, mental well-being, mental wellness on the front burner here on the program, and we're looking forward to having you on. Okay. So back to school, let's talk about education. And, I think I said this yesterday about a message from the Autism Society. Being aware and curious that not every child in your classroom is going to be the same as you, whether it be someone who's neurodivergent or someone from another country or whatever the case may be. That very fundamental message of just simply be kind can go a long, long way. Unfortunately and predictably, an email from a mother that says that her son, in this case, boy, back into school just to fall prey to the same bullies as last year and the year before that and the year before that. So obviously some of these bullies, generally speaking, cowards, they have to do it in gangs, do it in little groups. And that simple message, and some parents, listen to the show, parenting is difficult. But if you know your child is part of the problem in school, try to do something about it. This is all learned behavior. This all starts at home. We can talk about teachers cracking down and focus on the bully, not the victim, and the role of the vice principal or whatever the case may be. But in large part, this happens and starts and is either fostered or ignored at home. So that simple message of be kind, that poor little boy, I feel terrible for him. And of course, here we are, the third day of school, doesn't want to go back. Mom is encouraging him to do so and, some tips and advice and coping strategies and try to include the teacher. But boy, oh boy, that fundamental message of just be kind. How about that? Okay, let's keep going. All right. So some new numbers in here about remote work. Of course, during the pandemic, given some of the restrictions and some of the decisions made by governments and private businesses, people were working from home. And a lot of people really enjoyed it. For me, it's not for me. I need to be able to go to work. Maybe it's because I'm so easily distracted or whatever the case may be. I like the structure of being at the office. And even through the pandemic, I was in the studio every single day. I think we did one show from home, maybe just one. Jason Murphy set me up with that remote equipment just one time. So anyway, let's get some of the StatsCan numbers here. Of course, we're going to get StatCan numbers on jobs today, as a matter of fact. Last time we got a report, the country lost some 40,000 jobs. But here's a report regarding the trend of working from home. The number of employees commuting to work rose for the fourth year in a row, reaching 82.6% in May of 2025. That's up 1.3 percentage points from May of 2024. The trend, I thought it was here to stay. Now, I still have some buddies who will continue to work from home, or at least in a hybrid model, once a week or once every couple of weeks in for a meeting for that level of collaboration or what have you. But the issue that many people had, and I'm not just talking about government workers, is productivity. But the numbers are pretty clear. Between 2019 and 2021, labor productivity rose across all industries, increased by 3.7%. Stats Canada has a time use survey. They found no difference in the amount of time spent on paid work between those who worked in an office and those who teleworked from home. People who worked from home, They report having, not only that so-called work-life balance that we all strive for, but more sleep and eating better and all these types of things. So I get how people say, hey, you want to work, go to work. Get in the office. Do your job. More collaboration and all that kind of stuff. But the numbers are pretty clear. So people are going back to the office. And like I say, I don't yearn to work from home because I don't want to work from home. I want to be right here in the studio doing this particular program. And also something I used to talk about a fair bit, and people don't like it, is there is a trend towards a 4-day work week. There's a lot of power in the hands of the employee. Maybe not like there was during the pandemic, so to speak. A lot of power in the hands of the employer. Obviously, they sign the front of the check. But there are a bunch of companies that have test-driven 4-day work week here in this country, and a lot of them are really saying that it's working for them. Productivity is up. Revenues are up. 41 companies that participated in this survey, and they were working on a 4-day work week schedule. 100% of the pay for 80% of the time in the office, even though some went to 4 days of 10 hours versus 4 days of 8 hours. The findings that were released, 41 companies that participated, surveyed, 35 of them said they're going to keep planning to or leaning towards keeping the new working scheme. It doesn't work for me. I mean, I got to be here 5 days a week. It doesn't work for many industries and people working in various industries, but for some, it certainly can. Everyone gets kind of crooked when I bring that up, but I'm into it. On that front, I think Bob Fiander, his name is Bob, right? Bob Fiander from Trades NL, I think, is going to join us this morning talking about the report they released this week about minimum construction job thresholds that they think the province should abide by to make sure that people who are trained and qualified and ready to go that are from here get first swing at the jobs and hold the majority of the jobs on whatever mega project or whatever project. So oil, gas, hydro, and we'll see what Bob's thoughts are on other contracts that aren't in the, quote, mega envelope, but let's take it on. Also joining us this morning is the chair of the oversight panel looking at the Upper Churchill Memorandum of Understanding. A couple of really good calls on it yesterday. It's critically important to get this right, so Dennis Brown will be joining us. We do know, as we've mentioned so far this week, that there is a confidentiality agreement signed by the members of the panel. What that restricts us from learning this morning, I'm not 100% sure, but Dennis Brown will be on the program. And, of course, we're going to have to get him to react to Michael Wilson's resignation and the comments made publicly by Mr. Wilson and some other things regarding timing and whatnot. But if you want to talk about that, we absolutely can and we absolutely should. So the Prime Minister cabinet meetings are over. I think there's an announcement coming this morning on a variety of fronts. I don't know exactly what's going to be said. So nation-building projects and homes and crime and what have you. So we'll hear about it and we'll talk about it on Monday. Or we can talk about it today. But there used to be a pretty keen focus here. We actually had a public inquiry about the concept of foreign interference on a variety of fronts. Economically, so in the business world, and also, of course, in politics. There were some pretty significant findings. But now, in the headline of Give Me a Break, Senator Yun Pao Wu teaming up with former Senator Victor O to launch Canadians United Against Modern Exclusion. Get a load of this. It's an organization dedicated to challenging what they refer to as false or exaggerated claims of foreign interference, national security overreach, and fear of the other. Look, it can manifest itself in some unfortunate societal interactions when people talk about Chinese interference or Indian interference or Iranian interference, because people who have nothing to do with it, who are just everyday normal Joes and Janes, and they will be verbally and possibly physically assaulted. We know that's happened. But imagine the gall of these two blokes trying to diminish or dismiss or shrug off some of the absolute legitimate concerns that we should all share about foreign governments, bad actors, interfering in our country, whether it be on the business side or the political side or the social side or whatever. So for these two senators, current senator and former senator, knock it off. All right, this one on behalf of the Waterford River Rotary. I think that's what it's called, Waterford Valley Rotary. Anyway, so this is a favor being asked for by one of the listeners. So apparently there is something called a strangely milky coloring, a silt spill that's been spotted in the river. So if you're someone who walks that particular trailway and you've spotted this milky condition of the Waterford, they're looking for a proper assessment of the situation, maybe to pinpoint the source. So if you walk around that particular trailway and you've seen this milky substance or milky coloring, and you maybe have an idea of what the source of it is, if you can reach out to the folks at the Rotary or us, and we'll pass it along on your behalf. So please do indeed keep your eyes peeled. And if you know more about this, please help the folks at the Rotary figure it out. How we doing out there, Dave? We're on Twitter. We're VOCM Open Line. Follow us there. Email address is openline@vocm.com. When we come back, let's have a great show. That can only happen if you're in the queue to talk about whatever's on your mind. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's begin this morning on line number one. Say good morning to the Executive Director at Trades NL. That's Bob Fyander. And good morning, Bob. You're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. Thank you for the invitation to come on.
Happy to have you on. Is it Fyander or Fiander?
I'm easy, Patty, but Fyander normally.
Okay, Bob Fyander. Welcome to the program. So, Bob, interesting body of work done by Trades NL. No, not just looking forward and talk about the need for jobs be held by Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, but also historical context and looking back over the course of 35 years. What did you find?
Patty, I say we jump right into it, and I want to talk about the Bay du Nord, and we'll get around to the economic analysis in the discussion. But the Bay du Nord topsides can be constructed right here in Newfoundland and Labrador. And for some of these reasons, we've constructed 5 offshore oil installations, starting at Hibernia, moving on to Terra Nova, the Sea Rose, Hebron, and the West White Rose. And I'd have to ask you, Patty, where would this province be without those string of major projects? I think the province would look much different.
Yeah, the province would be in slings. No question.
It absolutely would. So our position is we have a 35-year legacy of constructing offshore installations in Newfoundland and Labrador, and we've ticked all the boxes that we've been challenged along the way, Patty. That we've been challenged on quality. We deliver world-class quality. We deliver world-class productivity, world-class safety, and professionalism is inherent in everything we do these days. So we expect, we've been building these projects for that many years, and we expect to continue to build these projects.
So, if I read between the lines there, so let's just say, for instance, that Equinor proceeds with their final investment decision whenever, and the province then engages in the benefits agreement conversation. If they don't hit the thresholds that you've put forward here, and you're talking about, for instance, 86% on hydro, 68% on oil and gas projects, if that could not be achieved, because we have already heard the inklings about subsea work, but a lot of the big work will be done elsewhere, if they can't hit that target, do you suggest that the province should walk away from the project itself? Or what do you think should happen?
I think it's all a part of the negotiation right now. I think the reserve is 1 billion barrels, and I think if there's a gap, the gap needs to be made up within that 1 billion barrel reserve.
Yeah, and the oil companies are notorious for underselling how much oil they've found out there. There's billions of barrels of recoverable oil out of Bay du Nord. So, fair enough. So how does that negotiation sound work, and what kind of capacity do we have here to complete some of the big work? I know we did the concrete gravity structure, and I know we've done a lot of work on Hebron, and certainly a lot of work over the years, regardless of any oil field we're talking about. So what limits on capacity do we have?
Well, as I said, Patty, we have the capacity to build the top sides of the Bay du Nord here, and we've shown in our economic analysis that we have stacked projects in the past. From 2011 to 2016, we stacked the Hydromet, Hebron, LCP, Boise Bay Underground, 4 projects going, and we supplied the requirements for labor to each of those projects. 2017, we had Hebron, LCP, and Boise Bay Underground, West White Rose, stacking projects all the way along. Labor is not the issue. We can get the skilled labor to build these projects. We have the infrastructure in the province to build them. We've seen it in the past. We have our history, and we don't want to move away from that now, because when we move away from that, if this FPSO goes out of country and out of province and it's constructed somewhere else in the world, it's the start of that forever. We will not be constructing offshore oil installations again if we let this one go.
How did your organization arrive at numbers like 68% on oil and gas, 86% on hydro development? Is that based on some sort of formula?
There are formulas. So our research team has vetted the research through the CNLOPB, through finance department with government, through other departments, employment and immigration. So our numbers are rock solid. You can take them right to the bank.
Fair enough. And I do think it's helpful. Now, you might not agree with it, but, give folks some historical context. We can talk about the big projects, but what that means for actual jobs created and held by Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, the amount of revenue generated by people working in these various projects over the years, I think that helps drive the point home.
It absolutely does. And in our economic analysis, once again, from Hibernia right through to the West White Rose, there was $16.25 billion in labor income created. That's pretty tough to create in any fashion, I expect. So we have the resources. We've done some of the right things in the past. We're looking to build on that now. Also, in that length of time, 225,000 jobs created in the province. And those are not only construction jobs. Those are direct, indirect, induced. So everybody in the province gets touched when we are building these projects. The province is in good shape, and we're not bleeding out money trying to keep organizations alive. We have the resources in front of us. Let's go construct them.
Fair enough. Help me square this circle, because we hear this all the time right across the country and including in this province, because we've been told that you represent some 14,000 skilled trade workers, and somewhere in the neighborhood of 70% were looking for work. But at the exact same time, we're told that there's a skilled trade shortage, that we're needing to bring in skilled tradespeople from elsewhere. So help us understand exactly how both conversations can be entertained at the same time.
There's certainly not a skilled labor shortage in Newfoundland and Labrador. And while we can look out in years to come and know that we have some issues and there's things that we have to do to make sure that we have the skilled trades into the future, like building new apprentices, like building new professional project managers and all things like that, those things have to be done. But we are not in any fear right now of not being able to provide to a project. We need that work.
Fair enough. Of course we do. And, when people get a job around here, they spend their money around here. So, pretty obvious stuff. As it pertains to other government contracts, are you taking the same stance? So whether we talk about a replacement for St. Clair's or the Kent Mount Terrace School or the Paradise High School, are you applying the same principles there? Or are these numbers about the major projects, so to speak?
No, I think across the board, community benefits agreements should be in place. They protect Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, give them opportunities to go to work. And that's all anybody wants, Patty, is an opportunity. Many opportunities. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with having some choice?
Nothing as far as I'm concerned. Walk us through the catch-22. So I'm an apprentice and I want to work towards being a journeyman, and then I apply for a job and I'm told I don't have enough experience. That's that real strange predicament that many young people entering into the skilled trades find themselves in. How does it work and how should it work?
Well, I think you may be, some people may be experiencing some of that, but when things are very busy and we're constructing these large projects, those arguments go away because we need everybody on deck. We need to be out constructing these projects, and everybody gets opportunity to work then.
I appreciate the time this morning, Bob. Anything else you'd like to offer?
I'd just like to say, in closing, I don't hear Equinor speaking to the people of the province. And I think it's because they know that the people of the province are not going to buy what Equinor is trying to sell. And what Equinor is trying to sell is 100% construction out of province, out of country, and that's a non-starter for us. It's a non-starter for many Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, I expect. If the people don't get up right now and speak out, the result is going to be the Bay du Nord will be constructed by thousands of workers from some foreign country while thousands of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians sit idle. And again, that's a non-starter for us.
Yeah, and there's got to be a way to avoid what happened with Hebron, too. So even in that benefits agreement, they had to do X amount of work here, and when they chose not to, they simply paid a fine. Well, not really a fine, but they just paid the government like $110 million as opposed to abide by the agreement. So we have to try to find some way to avoid that pitfall or shortcoming in that particular agreement. Bob, appreciate the work that you're doing with Trades NL and your time this morning.
Thank you, Patty.
You're welcome. All the best. Bye-bye. That's Bob Fiander. He's the executive director at Trades NL. Let's take a break. When we come back, we're talking hydro, the MOU, of course, and then we're talking about childcare, whatever you want to talk about. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line 4. Kevin, you're on the air.
Hey, Paddy. I'll be quick now with this one this morning. With the MOU now for Galal and all this stuff, Kearney's been talking about a national power grid. Is Hogan in chats with Kearney to see when this is coming down the pipeline, and if he's going national, will it affect anyhow about the power going through to Quebec, or will we still have to pay to go through there? Because it's going to be a national power grid.
Yeah, it's a fair question. So, just a couple of things. At this moment in time, it is still just a hypothetical issue regarding the East-West energy corridor, whether it be for hydro or natural gas or oil or whatever the case may be. So, I have mentioned many times it might be a good idea to incorporate that into any definitive agreement that we might arrive at about if things change dramatically, and that would change things dramatically. Now, it wouldn't change things for us until we hit the border with Quebec, so all the work that would be ongoing in this province would still remain the same and largely unaffected by that. But once the power can get to the Quebec border, if there was a so-called free flow of energy on an east-west energy corridor, that absolutely changes it. I was going to say everything. It changes a lot.
Yeah, I mean, they should be involved in some chats with this to get some semblance of an idea if this is going to happen in the next 5-10 years or whatever the case may be, because it certainly should make a difference, and it's something that should be looked at. And you never know, hopefully that there is something brought into it, Paddy. So that was my little rant there for this morning. Sir, you have a good one.
Same to you. Appreciate the time, Kevin.
Bye.
All right, bye-bye. I mean, I've said that before because one of the shortcomings that I see of the Oversight Committee is that they can only deal strictly with what's in the MOU as opposed to other things that may indeed happen. In the terms of a 50-year agreement, and of course the clock doesn't start until the work at the Upper Church is completed, but in a 50-year agreement, I mean, even things like the province of Quebec lobbying the federal government for financial support in building transmission lines kind of changes just how much benefit flows to either side of the negotiating table. Same thing to East-West Energy Corridor. It may never come to pass. You can go back decades and hear the exact same conversation, and nothing has really changed. Provinces still carry a big stick here and still have plenty of authority as to whether or not they allow or not some of these types of projects, energy flow or otherwise. So, I don't know. It's a good question, though. Let's go to line number 2. Alvin, you're on the air.
Good morning, Paddy. How are you?
Best kind. How about you?
Oh, not too bad. As I told your producer there when I called in, I'm one of the signatories on one of those 2 letters that was on the go recently with regard to the MOU. People expressing their concerns. I believe Mr. Williams and company also put out one. And my in-basket these days in my email is absolutely filled with articles and position papers and analyses and so on and so forth about the MOU, and they're from a lot of smart people, and but they all seem to be coming to the same conclusion that this particular deal that the Hogan government has before us really doesn't meet the money requirements. We, on the Upper Churchill, we made no money. On the Muskrat, we lost our shirts. And now all these financial and technical wizards are telling me that we're not going to make the money we should out of this MOU. So if there ever was a logical reason to put this MOU before an independent panel of experts, an arm's length panel, that's certainly the case, because there's been enough questions raised by learned people that require looking into. Number 2, what we do here today or in the next year or so will affect our children or grandchildren, so on and so forth. And so our decisions will affect their daily lives in terms of the money available to the governments of their day. And therefore, I think we have a moral responsibility to put this to an independent panel just to make sure. And the other point I would make this morning as well, relating to what the Premier said the other day, that, this is our last opportunity, our last chance to get a hydro deal with Quebec. I think he's entirely wrong on that. The point is, Quebec came calling this time. They need our power, and we are in a better bargaining position than we've ever been before on the Churchill River, in that we have a product, we have a customer that wants to buy it, so why aren't we negotiating a better deal for ourselves? Now, obviously, the government will say this is a good deal, but as I said earlier, a lot of very smart people have raised some very serious questions about the long-term viability of this deal, especially as regards the income that we will receive from it.
Yeah, I think people are rightfully leaning in on one word, and that's value. We can have definitive issues with price and cost and what have you. Just quick comment. When we refer back to, I think there's a lot of 1969 hangover that still proceeds, or is perpetuated in the province, and you make reference to Muskrat. Let me just bounce this off you, Alvin. Trying to equate these two, for me, they're completely different. The biggest problem with Muskrat, or the two biggest problems with Muskrat, is one, we went it alone, and two, we're the only customer. So the reason why it's such a noose around our neck is because of exactly that. The power purchase agreement was with us, and we did it on our own. So they kind of feel like different things to me. But let's talk independent oversight. I understand what people want there, and even if we just follow recommendations from Justice LeBlanc, we should have done it. But the question I have is, what are the terms of reference? Because if you hire someone to independently review, so you say it's TD Bank or Goldman Sachs, or just pick someone, and they go in to have a look at it, they need to be told what they're looking for. So is it simply, did we get the best deal? And if so, how do we pay someone to figure out whether or not this was the actual best deal when they weren't in the room?
Well, I really couldn't say that. I'm sure the government or the Public Utilities Board have the capacity to set up a review panel with appropriate experts from. And the thing is, if the government or the Public Utilities Board are doing it, they can bring in experts from any corner of the planet who know about hydroelectric development. And the setup, but it's got to be an arm's length board from government. It needs to be free to analyze and speak its mind as to the viability of the project. Right now, that's not being done. The ongoing monitoring committee that the government set up assumes that the project is going ahead, and their job is to monitor the progress. The recommendation of the Muskrat inquiry was that we have the vetting process before we proceed. Not after, before we proceed. And I think we have a sensible and a moral obligation to ourselves and to our children and great-grandchildren to make sure that this is being done right and that we're getting the money. Like on the Upper Churchill, we got the jobs, we got some contracts, but, for the last 40-odd, 50-odd years, we've got no money. We tried to go an end run around Quebec with Muskrat, and we lost our shirts. Now we're committing the rest of the river to them, but the terms of the agreement, when the financial people really dig into this in ways that ordinary civilians can't, they basically say that this is going to be a repeat of the Upper Churchill contract, that yes, we'll get some jobs and we'll get some contracts, but the money is not there. And if you talk about health care and all the rest of it, our grandchildren need to be able to afford health care. And one of the sources of money should be our natural resources. We've certainly done well by the offshore, as the previous gentleman said, from the trade unions. That's because we had a system set up by Brian Peckford called the Atlantic Accord. But there's no system here to double-check that we're getting a good deal. And I think the onus is on the people in power to put some sort of independent arm's-length panel there to double-check this before we start. If I were doing this, I'd put the MOU on hold. If I were the Premier tomorrow, I'd put it on hold, and I'd call the Premier of Quebec and say, I hear you want to buy some power, let's talk.
Yeah.
You start there, not with them coming to you and putting the proposal on the table and you rubber stamping it.
Although them coming to us, to use your own words, put us in a different position of bargaining power than we've had in the past. Yes. So that's Gull. I mean, that's basically what we're talking about here. This is only even a thing because Hydro-Quebec wants the power from Gull Island. It's not about expansion of the Upper Churchill. It's not about any of that. It's about Gull Island. And why do I know? Because they've said exactly that. I've been following Quebec media on hydro for a long time, knowing that this was ongoing. Quick question for you, Alvin. Does Gull get built without a partner?
Look, the other gentleman who called just before me mentioned about, the National Power Corridor and all that. That's a concept that's being kicked around right now.
Mm-hmm.
But the concept, as I understand it, is an east-west energy corridor, okay? An energy corridor from Labrador down into central Canada would be north-south, and number one. Number two, I do not see in the current political circumstances in this country that any federal government of any political stripe is going to force Quebec to allow transmission across its territory. That, while technically and constitutionally it's legal, in practical terms, in terms of the number of seats Quebec has in the House of Commons, I don't think that's going to happen in the short to medium term.
Probably not.
Therefore, we have to sell to Quebec. They need our product. We should be harder to get in terms of reaching a deal. The Premier said this is our final opportunity to reach a deal with Quebec. I think because of our new bargaining power, because they need our electricity, this is our first opportunity to do a good deal that favors us.
Yeah, not to split hairs, but access to the broader market of the northeastern United States, just geographically, we'd have to go west before we went south. I mean, because we're not going to...
Oh, yeah, but I mean, the bottom line is you still would have to cross Quebec.
Yeah.
And I remember back in years ago when I was, I think I was still with the Peckford government then, there was some talk, about hydro whaling rights across Quebec. Even one point in a First Minister's conference, Peckford said to Pierre Trudeau, would it help if we put the wires in a pipeline? Because pipelines go fairly freely across the country. But we have to sell to someone where the muskrat thing showed us that, the Anglo-Saxon route is technically feasible but not economically feasible. Therefore, selling to Quebec, I got no problem with that. I got no problem with them taking a major role in the construction of these projects because they're very good at that kind of business. The problem I have, and the problem that a lot of smart people out there who've sent papers hell west and crooked on this issue, they have, is they're saying this is going to get us some jobs and it'll get us some contracts, but we're not going to get the money, and that way it's a repeat of the 1969 deal all over again. Appreciate
the time, Alvin. Thank you.
Thank you, Paddy.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. All right, let's get to a break. When we come back, Patrice Gordon is talking about early childhood education. She's with Childcare Now NL on the steering committee. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 3 and say good morning to Patrice Gordon with the Childcare Now NL steering committee. Good morning, Patrice. You're on the air.
Good morning, buddy. How are you?
I'm okay. Thank you for asking. How about you?
I'm good, thanks.
Good.
Thanks for the opportunity again to highlight ECEs in Newfoundland and Labrador.
Happy to do it. Where are we starting this morning?
We're starting with the acknowledgement of the minister's announcement of the Early Childhood Educators Award. And Childcare Now Newfoundland and Labrador would just like to acknowledge and applaud the efforts of the minister and the local government.
Well, I mean, unless people have children in an early childhood education setting, they probably underestimate just how important this is. I mean, if 90% of our brain is developed by the age of 5, then maybe we should absolutely acknowledge the critical importance that early childhood educators play.
Yes, absolutely. And I want to highlight something you said early on in your program about children and their social skills. And it is important to note that social skills are also one of the things that in early childhood education we try to develop, we try to hone. And in the sector, this is how the sector is important, and people, as you said, don't understand. But the foundation that we set as early childhood educators is important in how the children transition into elementary and further on into life. So their social skills, their emotional skills, how they deal with their peers, all that is important. And we are the ones that actually shape all of this.
And that part of life is absolutely compromised if you're in a setting that is physically, mentally, or emotionally uncomfortable based on the acts of others or the not understanding that we're all different in the classroom setting, early childhood education and otherwise. So, simple messages kind of get lost in the shuffle here. If we're talking about simply being kind, that's not just about one interaction with one individual. That's an actual mindset inside a classroom that allows for things like relationships and like learning and like brain development, cognitive development to happen at an appropriate level and pace. Because if it's compromised simply because people are bad people, then that ripples through the entire classroom, through the entire school. It's a bigger problem than people realize.
Yep, and as you said, it's something that's learned. And if they're in the environment that they're learning that each individual is different and we need to accept people for who they are, then it will follow through with them. It will stay with them. And this is where they learn that. And a lot of work goes into how ECEs plan activities and plan interactions for students. So the minister actually acknowledging that he said in a statement that early childhood educators are the heart of the childcare system. And I'm very happy that he recognizes that, because it is indeed true that we are the heart of it. We are the beginning of it. And it is high time that people recognize the importance of a solid early childhood education system. Sure,
because it's not just that it's play time now, and then it's nap time, then it's reading time, and then it's snack time, then it's outdoor time. There's something that goes into it. It's simply not willy-nilly throwing things at the wall and saying, okay, well, 10 o'clock is the appropriate time for a snack, 10:30 is a good time for a nap.
No, and a lot of planning goes into it, and we have to learn to pivot, because if children we have to read their body language, we have to read their attitudes. So it is important that we understand each child in our care, and we have to adjust. Even though we have plans, we have to adjust the plans at times to acknowledge and to help the children as they go along, because they develop different things, different experiences. They react differently to different experiences, and what we plan to do may not necessarily be the response to something that's happening with them. And we have to be able to deal with every situation that comes along. So there are a lot of things that are in play, and we have to be very aware.
And the government has made some positive moves insofar as training and recognition and pay models, because we got to get it right in this case. Even if we talk about pre-kindergarten and early childhood education and the dovetail between the two, getting it right there just sets us up to do better inside the K-12 system, period. It just does. I mean, academic outcomes are on a downward trend since 2003. We've got an issue with violence. We have an issue with comprehension and reading skills. We've got a lot of issues that we really need to get off on a better foot, and that starts with an early childhood educator. I really, truly believe it, not simply because I'm talking with you this morning, Patrice, because I try to say this stuff all the time, because we're just not hitting the targets that we need to hit here when we talk about school and the school experience, because school is not just book learning. There's more to it than that.
Yeah, and this is why we're encouraging the government to continue the work that they have started and to make the sector viable and sustainable. So another thing we're asking them to do, and we keep asking them to do, is introducing a defined benefits pension plan and paid sick days. We're going into the fall, and you know that viruses are going to be coming in. Children are coming in every day with different viruses, and early childhood educators are very concerned, because when we contract these viruses, we have to stay home and we don't get paid. So people who even want to come into the sector, it doesn't look viable for them. And if we want the sector to flourish, we need to make that change. We need to make it something that young people want to get into.
Patrice, I appreciate your time this morning. Would you like to say anything else?
Thanks to the government for recognizing, and we are right behind you. We encourage you to introduce the defined benefits pension plan and introduce paid sick days for ECEs.
I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty.
You're
Have
welcome.
a good day.
Bye-bye, you too.
Bye.
Patrice Gordon with the Child Care Now NL Steering Committee. Let's take a break. When we come back, we're talking a little AI and then some highway talk and whatever you want to talk about. Don't go away. Welcome back to the program. Let's go to line number 6 and say good morning to Courtney Bartlett with the Tickle Swim Committee. Good morning, Courtney. You're on the air.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning to you. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Happy to do it. So the Tickle Swim is this weekend, right?
That is correct. It's tomorrow, and it looks like it's going to be a great day.
And that's a good thing. Some people listening to the program might not even know if the Tickle Swim is fit to eat. So what exactly is it?
So the Tickle Swim is a 5-kilometer open water swim from Portugal Cove to Bell Island to raise funds for the Canadian Mental Health Association of Newfoundland.
Fair enough. And so do you want to give us some history, how it's worked, involvement, monies raised, those types of things?
Yeah. And we've been having great success with fundraising. So far this year, we've got $30,000 raised. We have a total of 20 swimmers this year, which is fantastic. And we've got a lot of support personnel on board, and it's looking like it's going to be a great event. Each year we tend to surpass our goals. We had a big goal last year, and we had some great fundraising initiatives for the Canadian Mental Health Association. So our community involvement and our participants have been steadily increasing with this event.
Yeah, and so it's a swim across the Tickle. How far is that swim again? I can't remember.
The swim is 5 kilometers, and it is in open water, so that is a little bit daunting for some people to think about swimming in open water if you've never swam before. Most of the people that partake in the event have some open water experience, which is highly, highly advised of. Swimming in the ocean does take we'll say strength as well as physical strength. So that is one of our requirements. If you are partaking in the event, we do want you to have some open water swim experience, as well as our kayakers have to have sea kayaking certification as well to ensure safety.
So does every swimmer get a support safety staff like a kayaker?
That is correct. So every swimmer will get a kayaker, and that kayaker support parallels with how, mental health, we all need support. It's quite emotional. We see people that come out of the water with their kayakers, and there's a big hug, and, some people are just swimming swimmers in open water, and having that person with you to guide you along the way and give you support in any way that you need. We did have a couple swimmers who were stung by jellyfish, and the kayaker was there to help them, to support them, to give them advice and whatnot. And it's just having that support to go across with you is unparalleled.
What was the original thought behind the relationship between open water swimming, swimming the Tickle, and mental health?
Well, I have swam it myself, so I can speak from experience. Training alone requires a lot of mental strength. Thinking while you're out there, what's in the water with you, that is one of the biggest, I'd say, mentally daunting things that you can have on your mind when you're going across there, because, there are fish, aquatic life, jellyfish, so many things that you can come in contact with, albeit, given our safety crew, we have boats circling the circumference, we have the kayakers, we have the people on the radio. So we do have a lot of, safety personnel there if anything were to happen. But, it takes a lot of mental strength to train for something like this. And bringing a group of people, like-minded people together to pursue such an event, to raise funds, to support mental health programs and initiatives in the province, it's just a great event.
I'm sure it is, and we've been supporting the Tickle Swim from its inception here on the show. I love to swim, but that ocean swimming, like you say, the jellyfish and whatever else are out there, I don't want to talk anyone out of doing it. It's not for me, but I'm happy to support it other ways. It's good to have you on the show, Courtney. Anything else you want to say this morning?
If you would like to come out tomorrow to see our swimmers off in the water, we are getting in the water quite early down at the Portugal Cove ferry takeoff. You just have to be mindful about the parking. There isn't a lot there, so, carpool if you can. But we will have personnel there where there's going to be photo ops and guest speakers before the swimmers get off around 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. So hopefully the conditions remain as they're forecasted right now, which is very favorable in the event going ahead for safety reasons and whatnot. But, we appreciate everybody's support, and thank you so much for having us.
I appreciate your time. Good luck with it this weekend. Fingers crossed for favorable weather conditions.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too, Courtney. Bye-bye. All right, there you go. The mental health tickle swim. Let's go to line number 4. Wallace, you're on the air.
Morning, Patty. How are you this morning?
Doing okay, Wallace. Going to have to put you on hold. That if we don't figure that out soon. Let's go to line number 2. Good morning, Henry House. You're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. How you doing?
Best kind. How about you?
No complaints so far.
So throwing your hat in the ring to try to win the nomination to represent or do you already have the nomination to represent the NDP in Conception Bay, Bell Island?
I certainly do.
Okay, good on you. Congratulations for taking a swing at it. Why the NDP?
Oh. I chose the NDP because philosophically it lines up with a lot of the things that I believe in, and I feel like they can do some decent work towards the initiatives that we're all planning.
Such as? Let's dig into it.
Well, I know the NDP is looking at tackling the housing crisis. Of course, you and I have talked in the past personally about some issues that I've had with the healthcare system, and that's very important to me to get that healthcare reform. I mean, we do have one of the largest spends in terms of healthcare, and we also have the poorest outcomes. And clearly, what we're doing right now is not working.
Look, I mean, I say this all the time. People just always lean back on, well, just spend more money on different areas of healthcare. If money was the issue, we'd have it solved. I mean, if we spend $4 billion out of $10 billion on healthcare, it doesn't seem to be the be-all and end-all. Now, of course, it's important to incentivize professionals and to make the system more efficient. But what in particular is something that we're doing, in your opinion, or the NDP's opinion, inappropriately, that can indeed change? Like, what is it? What are we talking about?
Well, I don't necessarily think I think it's the way that the money is spent. I don't think that that's done correctly. And I mean, we've got all these wait lists now for different tests and procedures. I think about the fact that a family member of mine had gone to the emergency room just a couple of nights ago, and the messaging that had been given to him at the time was, we're just here to make sure that nothing is life-threatening and follow up with your GP. And then I thought to myself, well, what if he doesn't have a GP? And then, I think about all the different challenges that people have with getting GPs and finding out what their status is on the Patient Connect. Stuff like that.
Yeah, and fair enough. The NDP have put forward a variety of cost and platform measures. There's been a bunch of announcements in the recent past. I think there's 8 key pillars to the plan. Anything else you want to highlight this morning while we have you, Henry?
Well, I mean, there's so many different things that come to mind, and to narrow it down to just that one subject would be a little difficult for me. I mean, I can say that in my own personal experience, I've had a lot of experience with a lot of these different sectors, and I am a social worker with the province, and so I am accustomed to having to interact with systems and whatnot, and there are some gaps along the way that I have identified. I did try to engage at the time with those stakeholders, and I didn't seem to get any movement on that. And it had just gotten to the point where I had to make the decision for myself that, if not now, then when? And we need radical change, and we need things to improve because people deserve better.
No argument here. I mean, there are plenty of positive experiences once you get into the system, but therein lies the problem, is getting into the system, whether it be trying to find primary care or wait times for diagnostic procedures or wait times for surgeries. Those types of things are obviously problematic, no doubt. But thankfully, when people get in, there's tons of top quality, empathetic, well-trained professionals that are working in the system. The problem is getting to them in a timely fashion.
No, and absolutely. And I mean, I'm not trying to discredit anybody that does work in those systems. I mean, the problem is not the people that are involved. The issue that I've noticed is the system and how slowly things move, and how, in my personal experience, there seems to be a lack of transparency, and there seems to be a lack of accountability at some different levels. The professionals delivering the work are quality professionals, and for the most part, there is a lot of empathy that's there. It's the system that's the issue, not the people.
Yeah, agreed. And I think sometimes we lose sight of that somewhat, anyway. Anything else? Anything else this morning, Henry?
No, the only thing that I can say, to give a little bit of a background for myself, this is brand new territory for me. I've been wanting to do this for a lot of years, and I would always find a reason to say, maybe next time. But, if not now, then when? Me, myself, for most of my working life, my focus was on making sure my lights were on, that my fridge was stocked, and then I entered into the industrial trades. I did that for a handful of years. Had a job site injury on the Hebron project, and went through the workplace NL process and got retrained as a social worker. So I've been at this now for a handful of years, and I've had some time working in the shelter system as a case manager, and currently I'm working in the child protection system.
I appreciate the time and the background or backstory, Henry. Good luck out there.
Thank you very much, man. I appreciate that.
My pleasure. All the best. Bye-bye.
You too.
It's Henry House. He's running for the NDP in Conception Bay, East Bell Island. Let's take a break. Don't go away. Welcome back to the program. Let's go to line number 6 and say good morning to the province's consumer advocate. And, of course, obviously, he's the chair of the Independent Oversight Committee looking at the Upper Churchill Memorandum of Understanding. That's Dennis Brown. Good morning, Dennis. You're on the air.
Good morning, Paddy.
Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much. Lovely day there.
'Tis a lovely day. I'm looking forward to getting out in it. Let's start with Mr. Wilson's resignation. So the letter was penned on the 12th of May, but we just found out about it this month. So did he submit the letter to you?
Let's go back. Just give me a few minutes to put this in context. Where all this came from is the recommendation that we put forward during the Muskrat Falls inquiry that the government establish a path forward getting ready to 2041 because, as experts told us during the inquiry, it takes 20 years to plan a project. The commissioner took our advice, and the commissioner told us that they advised the government to appoint an expert panel in preparation for 2041 and with a mandate to determine the best approach to be taken by the province in attempting to secure maximum long-term benefits from the Churchill Falls generating station. And the panel should be properly funded and include experts who are best able to assist government in preparing for negotiations with Quebec. So that's what the chair of the Muskrat Falls inquiry, Justice LeBlanc, advised. The government put that panel in place in 2022. Unbeknownst to most of us, it was a panel of experts from Newfoundland and from elsewhere, and they all had expertise that they hired, and to find the ways and means what we should do toward 2041. And it's my understanding all the alternatives, everything was looked at. And out of that panel, negotiations started with Quebec. We had Carl Sullivan and Jennifer Williams and the excellent team at Hydro that they have. And from there, the MOU was born. And the MOU between, it's not a contract. The MOU is not a contract. The MOU anticipates that there would be negotiations toward definitive agreements. So what happened then at the legislature, the MOU was discussed. And out of the legislature, the government members and the third-party members and the independents suggested that there would be, I guess, an independent Churchill River negotiation oversight panel. So I was not aware of any of that at the time, that all this was transpiring. So I got a call. I was a consumer advocate at the time. I was doing work at the PUB, as most people know. We've had great successes there over the past number of years. So I got a call from some people from the third party asking, would I chair the panel? And my initial reaction was no, because I was too busy. And then the members of the third party suggested that I take on the chairmanship of it. and I discussed it at home because we're busy there too. And Susan told me, "Yeah, go ahead." And so I called them and I agreed to do it. The first job I had to do was to put together a three-person panel. So I was hitting the ground running because the legislature had already moved on this, and this was late January, I guess. So I made a determination as to who should be on the panel, and I tried to find people who had experience with me at the PUB, and I was lucky enough to find some, but others were conflicted, etc. So I looked around and got advice from people, and I nominated Mike for the job. So we started the job at the end of January, and start putting things together. We all signed confidentiality agreements and contracts with the government. And I'm getting to where you want to go. So we worked in February and March. In April, some of us were taking vacation, including Mike, and he had advised us of that before he took the job, that he was going to be off for the month of April. And then in May, when he came back, we were meeting and getting ready to have high-level meetings at Hydro, and he informed that he was no longer wanting to be a member of the panel, and I accepted that. He didn't put his resignation in me. I did not appoint. He had put his resignation into the government. So if you put your resignation in under our agreements, I think you had 2 weeks to give notice. So I think he followed that. I think there was a lot of transition going on inside the government at the time. The new government was coming in, etc. So we wanted an appointee immediately to do the three-member panel. So we got Dr. Guy Holborn, who had been our advisor throughout all this. So we weren't working together, our particular panel with Mike, and we weren't working together a long time.
Okay, I'm simply trying to establish when the Premier found out, though, Dennis, and I appreciate that. One of the mistakes the government made is not releasing the information garnered by the 2041 panel, period. But I'm trying to ascertain as to when the Premier knew, because these are important items here. You know, if they're going to use your panel as the independent oversight body, and we're going to speak about independence here now in a second, I'm just trying to establish when the Premier knew, because he said he just found out when the media asked him. So did Michael Wilson resign to the Premier's knowledge on the 12th of May this year?
Well, no, Michael Wilson, from my understanding, and I got to be careful here because we're discussing confidential matters, but I know that he did inform us around May 6th that he had resigned. There was no discussion within the panel about his resignation, and we were all working well together, I thought, and we were rather surprised, but he decided to do that. So then there was a 2-week period where he had given notice, I think, so we were pretty close then to the last week of May. We announced, the government announced, and I think it was June 6th or 7th, that Dr. Guy Holborn was now on the panel, and it was picked up in the media at that time that Mike had resigned, and there was some discussion in the media about it. We announced it on our website when we did our annual report in early July that he had resigned. So it was known to everyone at that time.
I'm going to get you to react to some of the comments from Mr. Wilson. This is a quote from him. "The independence of the panel became impaired, and I no longer believe the panel's reports would meet the public's expectations and need for independent analysis supported by a full and frank commentary." Your reaction?
We were never impaired. We were all capable and competent of doing our jobs. And remember who we got on that panel. We got Dr. Guy Holborn, who testified and gave evidence before the Muskrat Falls inquiry. He's an expert on oversight panels. We got Doug Bowman, who worked with the World Bank in every capacity, worked worldwide on projects, and they were all familiar with MOUs. We got access to all of Hydro's experts. We're getting briefed by J.P. Morgan, by Stikeman Elliott, by McGuinness Cooper, by Power Advisory. We have all that going for us, and a lot of that happened, after Mike left. So we are completely independent. We have every ability to do this job, and we'll do the job as well as I've done other jobs for the ratepayers of the province before the Public Utilities Board. There's a lot of discussion about the MOU. We're into the political season now, but we always be mindful that the MOU is not a legally binding document. I think with one or two exceptions inside of it. So it's a mechanism which commits the parties to further negotiations, and that will culminate in a number of definitive agreements. The definitive agreements, as we approach them, we will give advice to the public as best we can. But we have to remember we are doing oversight. We are not able to impair negotiations. We are not negotiators.
Right.
But we have to be briefed on them, and we're getting briefed on them to the best of their ability. Everyone is really conscious of the fact that we don't want Hydro-Quebec, who are the other party in negotiations, to get any heads up on where we're coming from in our negotiations. But we're pretty satisfied, and we've got a good, competent, capable group. We have, as we have with Mike there was no difference there. We got a great, good, competent, capable group, and we are definitely moving forward. We are not impaired in any way, and that might have been an opinion, but I don't share that opinion.
Okay.
We are more experienced in working with the utilities as consumer advocate. We know how to go about it quite a bit, so we're taking the same approach, and we'll get good results as we always have.
So this is not a piece of a report that Mr. Wilson worked on, having resigned on the 12th of May, but he goes on to speak to the July report. He says the July report does not provide any findings arising from a detailed review of the MOU. It does not provide any insight as to the reasonableness of the project costs, risks, or projected benefits are fairly stated. It does not identify open items to be negotiated or key decisions to be made during an ongoing negotiation process. It provides little insight as to the specific oversight mechanisms deployed by the panel to ensure public policy and commercial objectives will be achieved. For me, the most impactful paragraph from his letter. So if all of that is what Mr. Wilson's assessment of the ability for the panel to operate independently and to provide to the public and recommendations to the government all of these detailed reviews, reasonableness of project costs, risk and projected benefits, all the most important parts of it. So if he feels that, how and where is he wrong?
Look at the first report we made to the government. I think it was in March month, and the recommendations we had there, etc. So what we did this time around isn't too much different. We cannot get involved in negotiations. That's not our bailiwick. We are not negotiators. We are overseers. Furthermore, we do a report to Cabinet as to what we're finding. And the report we give to Cabinet is, of course, confidential, but it's not the same as what we're writing to the ratepayers, because we are into confidential matters, dealing with negotiations and dealing with better ways forward. And all our experts got together and we report to Cabinet. We just had the report to them in the new Cabinet in July month, I think it was. And we are benefiting the province in that way. Obviously, we can't put down what the weaknesses are in negotiations, what we see the strengths are, and publish them and send them off to Quebec. We don't want to impair negotiations in any way, so we're very careful. And the people of the province would expect that of us. We can't negotiate in public. We want to get toward good definitive agreements, and as we move forward in the negotiations, we'll try to find the way and means of informing more and more. So before definitive agreements ever come to be, there will be a big public discussion on all of this. Okay. Remember now, the both Hydro and the government has said we might not be able to reach the objectives of the MOU inside the definitive agreements. And they're quite open to walk. They've used that term. We can't get what we're looking for. And we got good people negotiating this.
I'm not asking for inside baseball in negotiations, but does it constitute inside baseball to offer reasonableness of project cost, identifying risks associated with project benefits, and whether or not they're fairly stated? Those types of things, that's not commercial sensitivities, that's not intellectual property, that's risk assessment as part of oversight, isn't it?
But it might not be accurate because most of the costing estimates are all forecast. We're into forecasting here, and therefore, that's something to keep in mind. When people are out there commenting on these, they're commenting on a forecast cost. And everyone has a right to be out there. Everyone has a right to speak. It's a democracy. And we appreciate the criticisms that we are undertaking. But we're doing what's required for the benefit of the province. We will not put misleading information out there. The information we will put out there, when it's out there, will be something the people of the province can rely upon, and they can take that from me. When we put facts out there in reference to various matters, that's what they will be. And as we get toward negotiations, and as we are, well, they're in the negotiations now, and remember, we have the benefits that other people don't have. We have briefings from Stikeman Elliott. We have briefings from J.P. Morgan. We have briefings from the Hydro executive. So we know a lot more about what is transpiring than those who are writing pieces and commenting out there. Some people, I think Hydro has offered everyone an opportunity to come and get briefed. Some people have taken advantage of that, which will be a good thing. But the briefings and the information and where we're going forward, a lot of it is based on forecasting. So we want to be very careful, Patty, to ensure that we're not misleading in any way. And in terms of numbers and the like, we're being very careful here.
I appreciate your time.
We want to do so for the benefit of the province, but the province has my commitment as consumer advocate to come up with the same good results as we have at the PUB, and they will be results that they can rely upon when we make comments publicly and when we come to some understanding of where the definitive agreements are going. But we have to move forward to the definitive agreements. The MOU is not a contract. We have to see what the definitive agreements will state. To be out there having big discussions on the MOU and say it's no good or tear it up or whatever, and everyone has a right to say whatever they want. And people are, we understand, people are testy about this because we've come out of the failed Muskrat Falls inquiry, brought out all the news, what went on there. It was a failed project. It's costing the ratepayers $500 million each and every year to go toward their bills. It's costing the Treasury to keep prices affordable. So we know, and nearly everyone who's been involved with, we actually have Barry Learmonth now, who was counsel to the Muskrat Falls inquiry, with us too. So we're not doing another Muskrat Falls.
I appreciate the time.
That is for certain.
Thank you, Dennis.
Listen, thanks, Patty.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.
It's Dennis Brown. Let's get a break. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go. Line number 4. Wallace, you're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. How are you?
Doing very well. Thanks. How about you?
Patty, I just called back to let you guys know that we did receive with that petition we had out for Route 470 at Port of Astor Road Plains from the Honourable Alvis Lovelace, MHA, Minister of Transportation, District of Fortune Bay. And the states on the end of that, he says, lead the way to safety today. That was great. So I got a letter there in my hand. I'm not going to read it all out, but it's just the most important parts of it, I guess. Thank you for your cooperation correspondence regarding the road condition on Route 470. Approximately 17,500 kilometers across the province regarding highway inspection conducted and to identify and address safety concern. As part of this year's road program, work is planned for local road conditioning road plains and diamond codes, as well as tree, and I repeat that, as well as tree kilometers of Route 470, while safety hazards are addressed immediately. And I can understand what they're coming from there. You got 3 kilometers of the highway. We got 46 kilometers, Patty. The 3 kilometers was in from Rose Planch, and I just out from the town of Rose Planch. Definitely all the rain that we had there back in the spring, that a lot of it got washed away, and God love them for that. I'm glad he got that done, because there was a safety hazard. But now we got 43 kilometers highway. There's no one is addresses or letting us know the petitions that we had done. What are we going to do with it? Like even the marks, like the paint on the highway going down, and everybody knows what I'm saying. It's being neglected. You don't see that. The highway itself, in the middle part of it, kilometers after kilometers, is split open. The condition of the road is unreal. They're coming down, and I already repeated that last time when I was talking to you, Patty, that they're coming down and putting coal patches on it. But they're not bringing it, when they're putting coal patch on, you got 5 or 6 workers, and I got nothing against anybody working on that highway. Everybody needs a job. God love them. But while you're on that highway, you're not tamping down. You can't tamp that down with it's a stick and a little timer and just push it down in a hole. You need a roller, like the cement roller that roll over when you're doing pavement. None of that is done. So a couple hours after that's done, you drive over it. You could hear it clicking on to your trucks and your cars. We got a lot of traffic here, Patty, on this highway. Teachers going back and forth down to Rose Planch area to Burnham. The school's open. We got a lot of heavy equipment going down there doing construction from Rose Planch to Port of Ass, with the trucks going with gravel, big rocks, and well, what have you, right? And they're coming back and forth every hour after every hour, because the construction is going in megaries. They're doing a wharfing megaries right now, trying to get all this done. You got heavy equipment, so that bit of patching you put on the road is not going to do any good. My question to the minister is, the premier is, and the minister, what are you going to do? Is anything in the future? All we're asking is anything in the future you guys going to take care, or Elbows take care, this Route 470, to get me quiet, get me off the radio, whatever the case may be. I can't give up that easy. To do something better, because the safety concern is there.
Yeah, I got it. Even when I remember the call, we talked about the coal patch. I mean, it's the epitome of a Band-Aid, right? It's eventually just going to come off or get knocked out of the hole. So very little satisfaction comes from it. I appreciate the update this morning, Wallace. Anything else? Because I went pretty long with Mr. Brown, so I'm kind of late behind on the brakes.
I just want to give you an update that we had a letter come back from it, and and we appreciate that letter come back. Now we just our concern now is what's in the future for us. If they're going to try to take care of this 43 kilometers. Thanks for your time, Patty, and have a good weekend.
You too, Wallace. All the best. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Public service announcement before we get to the break. So for folks who are looking for supports at the Splash Centre, so the Comfort Centre for CBN Wildfire Relief have been now moved from the Splash Centre in Harbour Grace, now operating out of the Salem Centre in Small Point. I didn't even know that until someone wrote me an email who actually works at that facility. So she works out of the Splash building with Communities Against Violence. There's still folks stopping in and looking for services in there, but those services are no longer at the Splash Centre. They're at the Salem Centre in Small Point. So if that impacts you, because if you're driving well out of your way to try to get supports at the Splash Centre just to find out that you need to go to Small Point, that's a problem. So go to the Salem Centre in Small Point. Let's take a break. Don't go away. Welcome back. Let's go to line number 3 and see where Luke Quinton with Newfoundland and Labrador Historic Trust. Good morning, Luke. You're on the air.
Hey, thanks, Patty, for having me. How you doing?
Doing great, thanks. How about you?
Grand, yeah. We're prepping for a busy weekend here.
Yeah, we're throwing the doors open. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, so we haven't had this event since 2019. It's our most asked about event. And basically, we've got 14 sites around the capital city that are letting people in on Sunday, September 7th, from 10 to 4. And you're just allowed to wander in there. They've got usually have a tour guide or someone there to answer questions for you. And yeah, you can just check out the history, the architecture, get some questions answered, see in spaces that you may not normally feel comfortable wandering into, like a church or, the wine vaults or places like that. So it's a great event.
And you know, some of these places that are part of the Doors Open are little hidden gems. Like right at the top of the page is the Crow's Nest. I've been to the Crow's Nest Officers Club several times in the past, but it is a very unique spot that I'm sure many people who walk by the door don't know what's in there, and they'd be delighted if they walked in. Myself and my wife, we're actually going to go to the Colonial Building Doors Open because I haven't seen the inside. I've seen the pictures and whatnot, but I'm really curious to see how that refurbishment or renovation went. And, you know, you mentioned churches, the Anglican Cathedral, St. Andrew's Presbyterian, the Basilica is on the list as well. Anything else you'd like to highlight for the doors that will be open?
Yeah, I mean, I totally echo what you're saying about the Colonial Building. I don't think people realize that, this is like the most thorough restoration project of a heritage building that was ever undertaken in this province. Like, we had international experts coming in and dealing with the paint, talking about, you know, which layers do we save, which layers do we paint over. The level of detail on that building is unreal. It's absolutely impressive. I think you really get the feel when you go in there. So yeah, that's fairly recent. It was only done 2 years ago, I think, it was completed. So if you haven't been in there, I totally agree. I would absolutely stop in the Colonial Building. I guess I'll highlight a couple things. So we have some sort of events inside of the event. So at 1 p.m. Inside of Bowring Park, there's a cantilever bridge, and some folks will definitely know where this is, and some may not. It's the bridge it's a footbridge that goes over the old CN rail line. So it's sort of like, if you know where the bungalow is, it's not far away. You keep coming sort of southeast, and you will eventually stumble on it off the main trail. Robert Mellon, architect, and Doug LaPrairie, engineer, are going to say a few words about this bridge. So it was recently designated a St. John's Lake Heritage Structure and a provincial one as well. And it's got an awesome story. You know, this is designed by the architects who built Bowring Park, or designed Bowring Park itself, and then it was engineered by Ove Arup, who are still in business. But this is when they're a Danish firm, and he was still alive, and this is the guy who helped realize the Sydney Opera House. So he called this one of his favorite structures that he ever did in his career. So it's just sitting there in Bowring Park, and so we hope people will come out for that talk at 1 p.m. At the bridge. Something else I'll say is that we have O'Brien's Farm. Heritage NL has a wood shop there now, which is really exciting. They have carpenters who are teaching people how to fix wooden windows and fixing them themselves. And if you haven't been to the farm, there's just a lot going on there anyway. It's a great time to get out there. But this is a really cool project that sort of has just come online. And hopefully people, if you wonder what Heritage NL is, and Heritage NL does, you can actually come out and see it in action, which is great. And thankfully, the cantilever bridge has been given a facelift, some maintenance that had to be done. It's, I think one of the words people use to describe it is very graceful. And it is. It's a funny thing to say about a piece of concrete, but it is a very graceful fixture in Bowring Park. And so the doors open. I know people were clamoring for it to come back, and I'm glad it's happening this weekend. So people can find out more about it if you just simply go Google up NL Historic Trust. You'll come to their page, and Doors Open is featured there. Yeah, absolutely. One thing I just want to point out is that because a lot of these churches are having services, check the schedule. Make sure you don't roll into a church at 11 and expect someone to give you a tour because they're busy. But so check the schedule carefully. Lots of places are open starting at 10. Yeah, and so Winter Home is on it. Government House itself is on, and at Templeton Centre, Gower Street United. So please go to the page and find out something that you've driven past or walked past several times. Now you get a chance to go inside and explore. Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Luke. Okay, thank you, Patty. You're welcome. My pleasure. Bye-bye. Yeah, Doors Open is a really cool event. And we are going to go to the Colonial Building because I'm interested in seeing it, up close and personal. I've seen all the pictures and stuff when the media was given a chance to visit. And I'll throw it out there one more time. I can't believe that we cut down all of those beautiful, gorgeous, massive trees that were in front of the Government House. Why? Or pardon me, in front of the Colonial Building. Just to bring it back to its state of glory 100 years ago. Trees would have grown. Just to take them all away so they were trying to pretend we're mimicking a century ago, it was just terrible. Those were beautiful trees, and there was no need to cut those down. Let's take a break. When we come back, Margot, you're next to talk about artificial intelligence. Then we've got John in the queue who wants to respond to Bob Fiander from Trades NL. And then there's a candidate talking about the wildfires and a stress event that's upcoming. Don't go away.
You're listening to a rebroadcast of VOCM Open Line. Have your say by calling 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626 and listen live weekday mornings at 9 a.m.
Welcome back. Let's go to line number 3. Margot, you're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. Thank you very much for taking my call.
No problem.
I wanted to let people know that yesterday actually was the 4th credit card that I had come to the bank because it had been impacted, which is quite unfortunate. Twice there were times when I hadn't even ordered anything, and because I don't tend to order because of previous to December, but 2 weeks ago, I was watching Oprah Winfrey, the most celebrated and trustworthy, in my opinion, person, and she had lost a lot of weight, and she was talking about this new pink salt trick, that's what they refer to it as. And anyhow, so she encouraged people to purchase 6 bottles of the secret ingredient that would go along with the other 2 or 3 household ingredients. So, of course, I clicked on and I went into Gary and I showed him. I said, Gary, I'll put this on my credit card, and I said, then I'll pay the family back. And he said, okay. So I went ahead and ordered it, and when it came up on his computer, it was the same number that twice had taken me for a ride twice before. It's a number in Ohio, and then they must have sent it to Great Britain, Japan. It's absolutely ridiculous. So obviously it is an AI scam, because Oprah Winfrey would not be so low as to, have anything to do with this type of procedure. So consequently, I got my 4th credit card, and I generally don't order online. As I said, I try my best to shop local, and so consequently, I just want people to know about this type of, she's the most trustworthy in my opinion, and if you can't trust Oprah Winfrey, then who can you trust?
Fair enough. I mean, I'll leave it up to people's individual opinion, but there's something to be said for the person that brought us Dr. Phil and credibility at the same time. Look, the artificial intelligence issue, even if people don't think about it, read about it, and whatever the case would be, it's almost everywhere you look. And it's becoming more and more difficult to know if something's on the up and up or it's generated by artificial intelligence. When you've got people like Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg who are trying to lobby governments to deregulate artificial intelligence almost in full, then these guys aren't our friends. And so that's a massive red flag for me. It should be clearly labeled every single time if it's been generated by AI.
Yeah, I agree fully. And I just want to reiterate what I said about the A.C. Hunter Library on Thursday mornings from 9:30 to 11. Will teach people how to use their phones and or their computers, and perhaps they can even, get people aware of the AI scams, because maybe somebody wouldn't be bold enough to speak out like myself. And I don't want it to happen to anyone, and so this is why I'm calling you. So it'll go into the ears of a lot of people.
And I'm glad you did. I appreciate the time, Margot. Thank you.
No problem, Patty. You have a great weekend.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thanks, honey. Bye.
No problem. That's one of the things in the education code. On top of financial literacy, which we should be doing more in the province of schools, is digital literacy. I mean, at my age, I spend a fair bit of time using the technologies I need to do my job, and even just some personal interests, what have you. But young people, that's where they are. That's where they live. And so it's becoming harder and harder to really discern what we see and whether or not it has any merit, or it's valid, it's accurate, or it's just complete nonsense. And that's going to be a bigger problem than I think we currently understand. Let's go to line number 4. John, you're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. Thank you for taking my call.
No problem at all.
First time call. Yes. If I could say this before I make my comment, your program is a form of social media. and in my opinion, and the way that the program comes across with feedback from different perspectives of people in the province, and you are a referee who controls the discussion and tries to add balance to the points that are made. And I just want to compliment you on that, because you occupy that chair very well.
I appreciate it. Thank you, John.
Okay. My point earlier, I have 2 points if I could bring up. One was in a conversation that was held with a member of the panel. I just wonder if Mr. Wilson hadn't resigned, if that member of the panel would have been contacting you on your program today to voice his concerns over public radio. I wonder if how much information we would have had he, and I've seen the program Current Events on TV. Just excuse me for not having the name proper. But there was a couple of people on there, well-informed people who made arguments about the MOU. And with an election coming up, we're going to hear it from this stump on a regular basis from all three parties and more. And it'll be a blurred line between their arguments. For us to make it, and it's fortunate that we have an election at the time of, in my opinion, in the time of this MOU that's with Quebec on the Churchill Agreement, and that we have an opportunity to vote on it if that's what it comes to, and vote down the government if the people don't feel that this is a fair and honest deal. So it's complicated, I know, and one person will make an argument one way, one will make another. I've felt all along that there should be a fully independent third-party analysis of this MOU, and more particularly the final agreement, which is critical for us in Newfoundland, as we all know, because of what we've suffered. I grew up in Labrador City, and Labrador City for a long while, Labrador West for a long while, was the only part of our province, not even in Labrador, but only part of our province that had any power from Churchill Falls. It all was exported. So we need to get out of that, and Muskrat has its own history, so we need to get out of that. My reason for calling in the first place was to offer support for Mr. Fiander with NL Trades. I'm a retired IBEW electrician. I moved back to Newfoundland in 2012, and just at the time when the Long Harbor had started, so the industrial boom for mega projects was just starting to wind up, to ramp up. We had the Hebron project and Muskrat Falls both come into play, and we even had travelers coming into our province in our trade, in particular in the electrical, and I think some of the other disciplines as well. So if we don't have, as Mr. Fiander said, if we don't have these mega projects come into our province anymore, especially related to the offshore, because that's where the big mega projects come, then we're going to lose that expertise, not only from a tradesperson's perspective, as on the tools, but also in managing those projects, the foreman, the general foreman, the superintendents, and right up through the hierarchy of the companies that are involved. We had the original West Rose project was supposed to be 2 platforms, as you may recall, and that was all rolled back to 1. And a lot of the topsides work was supposed to be coming from done in Newfoundland. And I know this specifically, being a lot of it was in our trades, in the electrical instrumentation and the IT side. And all that was shifted down to Texas when they moved the job down there. As far as the Hebron job goes, you referenced that earlier, where they paid us $110 million, or whatever that number is, so that they could build it offshore, because they said we didn't have the qualified labor. I think that was one of the reasons for their logic. I would like to say again, as Mr. Fiander did, that we have very qualified people in this province. We have experienced workers. We have a good industrial background, and that we are not only able to do the jobs, but do them efficiently and professionally. And if we don't end up with these jobs, then we will lose. We have a young workforce coming through now. Now, I'm a retired guy, so it's not going to be in my benefit to have these jobs come in as far as my own labor work. But there are, right now, our electrical union, IBEW 2330, we've got 80% of our members out of work. Out of 1,100 people, we've got somewhere around 200 people that are working. And I won't speak for the other disciplines, but I'm sure that they're in a similar situation employment-wise. We've got jobs that are going on in this province that are non-union. The mating job out on the West White Rose now, the NL Trades tried to get in there, and they were shut out. We have a mine that's being built in central Newfoundland, a gold mine, that a non-union company from British Columbia got the job. Now, okay, we have Newfoundland companies that have bid on jobs in Alberta. That's fine and dandy. Our union businessman nature reached out to Rising Edge, and they were not. They didn't want to hold that discussion in earnest about having our union people working under the union jurisdiction. So a lot of our members who are trying to feed their families and trying to maintain a lifestyle went and worked there against the best wishes of our local. And some of the other trades have experienced this as well. So I think that the NL Trades is a good group. Our IBEW local is involved with that. And I just wanted to add some comments from the perspective of, I'm not speaking for the IBEW, but I am a member in good standing, a retired member of over 30 years. And I just wanted to make those comments to support the working people of this province, that we do have the ability to fill in on those jobs.
Absolutely. I mean, Equinor hasn't been exactly firm in their position on this, but they kind of noodle around the edges, which gives everyone reason to believe that subsea will be what we lean in on, and the rest of it's going to be done elsewhere, whether it be in Texas or South Korea or what have you. And that's not good enough. I agree with Bob and you as well.
Yes, and exactly. The Hebron job was done in South Korea and shipped over here, as you know, on a semi-submersible. We just had the Terra Nova done in Spain. That job, they had to bring many Newfoundland. I had the opportunity, I was employed elsewhere, but I had the opportunity to go to Spain on a well-paying job to go over and basically do rework of what was already done to a large degree. Now, some may argue against what I'm saying here, but I'm not speaking for either side of the coin on this. But just to reaffirm your point, that we take jobs offshore because it looks like it's better. I've talked to people in my discipline that have been down in Texas now, who are working, the owners of the rig, who are going to be working there permanently on the rig, and the work was less than adequate, and there was a lot of rework done on that. So I'm not sure, and again, I'm a tradesman. I'm not a financial guy or an expert on these things, but I know that to do rework costs money. And to do the job efficiently and effectively in the first place is what any employer is looking for, regardless if it's industrial maintenance or if it's in construction. And they both, one flows into the other. The construction flows into the maintenance, which has to be done later when the rig is operational. So, or any facility is operational. So definitely, we have the skilled labor here that can do it. Yeah, our labor costs are normal for Canada, and you can get cheaper labor in Texas. You can get much cheaper labor in South Korea or in Singapore or wherever else offshore in Spain. But if they see that this work is being done there and it's not being done adequately or to the standard that they're looking for, then where's the benefit in that? And we need to work here in our province. And again, to reiterate what I said previously, that if we don't do that, we're going to lose that skill. The young guys, the young men and women coming up in the trades are not going to get the hands-on experience. Commercial work is always there, but heavy industrial work is where the employment is during the construction and post-construction, and where the solid income is. And to back that up, it's union work that's needed. And I've been a union worker. I grew up in Labrador City. I was 18 years old when I went to LIC. So union work is where my heart is. And so I'm a little biased on that opinion. And I'm sure there are others who would argue that. But to get to good work, companies draw from the union members when they're doing non-union work. So I thank you for your time. And you have any comment there, that's fine.
Sure. I mean, one comment on the rework done on the FPSO, the Terranova, it was especially galling to me that work was done elsewhere to begin with, given the fact that we are in on that oil field for $500 million. There was a $300 million break in royalties and 200 million-ish cash on the barrelhead for the operator, and yet they still had that work done elsewhere. I mean, come on, right? That's got to be part of the equation as well. John, I appreciate your input and your time as a first-time caller. You're always welcome.
Thank you, and keep up the good work.
Thanks, John. Stay in touch.
Bye.
All right, bye-bye. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we're talking about wildfire displacement and stress and the wind development proposal for Clareville area. Keith's in the queue to talk about that as well. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 7. Good morning to Brenda Halley, running in Ward 2 here in the city of St. John's. Good morning, Brenda. You're on the air.
Hi, Patty. Thanks for taking my call.
Sorry, Brenda. We're going to have to put you on hold. Let's go to line number 5. Jason, you're on the air.
Hey, how are you today, Patty?
Not too bad, Jason. How about you?
I'm not too bad, my buddy. Beautiful day. Just calling, I guess my biannual call. I usually call you about the road in Markland, Route 81. Please let you guys know that they are doing some upgrades on the road. However, they're falling very short of what their intentions were. They were supposed to do upgrades to about approximately 3 kilometres of the road. So I just found out this morning they're doing about 1.5 kilometres of the road. And the worst part of the road, they're not even touching. So, like, what gives? The contractors out there now, they're doing the ditching, they're doing a great job. The workers are doing everything they can. And unfortunately, they're stopping short of where the worst part of the road is. They're not going to touch it because that's what they were directed to do. Like, what is going on? I understand the province is tight and this and that, but like, come on, they can't grade the road unless they call you and put up an open line or go to social media. The only time anything happens out there is when I got to do this every time, and trust me, I don't mind talking to you. I enjoy talking to you. I value your input on everything. But like, what do we have to do? Like, to have a road that's fit to drive on. We live out there. They put the traffic counters out there. They do this, by the way, by not telling anybody that they're doing it to try to, I guess, to fool people into it. But it's terrible. It is absolutely terrible. That myself, there's a dozen or more families out there. And this is what we do. Like, beat up our vehicles to try to live and pay taxes on something that we don't even get anything for it. I'll use this analogy. You go to a gas station, you fill up your vehicle with gas, you come out, and your vehicle don't start, and you come to find out that they give you water instead of gas. But you can go back to the gas station and complain, and you'll get your vehicle repaired or whatever. We're paying for a service here, and we're not getting anything for what we're paying. Like, I just don't understand. There's no accountability. I just can't. I'm flabbergasted. Like, you know, it's ridiculous. 2025, and I keep stating the year because it's so, I don't know, it's like it falls on deaf ears. And, like, all the provinces were equal. We're all paying taxes. Whoever works, you're paying taxes. And a certain amount of your money goes towards infrastructure, and it's not. Like, what do we have to do?
Don't know. Jason, quick question. In your estimation, how many kilometres worth of the Markland Road needs some TLC this go around?
1.5 that they're not touching. That is the worst part. You go in there now, Paddy, and I'm not even joking. You have to crawl over the road, and only because the road is not soft. But the road is absolutely not fit to be driving on. It's 1.5 kilometres that they're leaving out. The absolute worst part. They're not touching it. Like, to go from the pavement into the first bridge is 1.5 kilometres, and that is the worst part. You go in there, you have to crawl over the road. And like you said, you've traveled that road in the past. Maybe not recently, but it's terrible. Like, the contractors are there now. The equipment is there now. Like, what a better time. You haven't got to send out for tendering. You got nothing. You haven't got to do a thing. It's a stroke of a pen. Yes, guys, just finish this a little bit here. But that's not too much to ask for, Patty.
Doesn't sound like it. I was on the road as recently as a couple of years ago, and it was beat then.
It's the same now. If
Okay.
that road has not been upgraded from where I live out to the pavement, up to my place from Colonnet, just headed north from Colonnet, that was done in 2015, I believe. But from where I live out to the pavement, I'm 51. I grew up in there. That road has never been touched, regardless of upgrading. It's built on bog. There's nothing there. It's topsoil. You go in the road in the spring of the year. Like, I've often had to put my vehicle in four-wheel drive to get over the road. Like, you know, what have we got to do? This is terrible. Now's a chance they can do it. Like, why can't they just do that? Like, they get money for everything else. Like, come on. There's not that much extra to do that. They're not looking for pavement. We just want the road upgraded so you'll be able to possibly do a grading on it more than twice a year or 3 times a year. Like, what can it happen? Like, I cannot. My mind is blown, and obviously it's a concern for me. I waited here on the line this morning over an hour to speak with you, and I don't mind it. It's worth it to me, and I really believe it's worth it to anybody who lives, especially in our area, who has to commute over that road daily to go to work, to make a living.
Understood. And I appreciate your patience this morning, Jason, and thanks for the call.
No worries. But, like, please, someone got to be listening. I know that they listen to this in the Confederation building because a lot of it probably got to do with their votes. The election is coming up and everything else. But come on, boys, someone just open their eyes for a bit and look at this stuff. It's very easy. We're not, like I said, we're not looking for pavement. We'll take it if we can get it, but like, just to upgrade the road. It's not that much. They're only digging a few ditches. They're putting in a few culverts that desperately need to be replaced anyway. Like, there's not much to it. They got a contractor bringing the gravel in, the road gravel. They're going to come in, and they're going to stop short of where it needs to be done. Like, come on. You can do better than that. Like,
okay.
It's terrible. It's embarrassing.
Understood, Jason. I got to get to the news, but I appreciate your time.
Right on, Patty. Thank
Okay,
you.
pal. You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Take care.
You too. Very quickly, we're talking about digital literacy and all that kind of stuff. You know, some people say, well, seniors in particular need this type of awareness. Look, plenty of seniors I know, they're quicker than I am on the computer. They know more about it than me. But if you want cost-free digital skill enhancement and training, seniors can reach out to Digital Seniors NL. The email address is an easy one. info@digitalseniorsnl.ca, or you can simply go to their Facebook page, and maybe that'll be of interest to you. Let's take a break for the news. Don't go away.
The Tim Powers Show. Join the conversation weekday afternoons at 4 p.m. on your VOCM.
Welcome back. Let's see if we have a better line on line number 7 with Brenda Halley, who's running in Ward 2 in the city of St. John's. Brenda, you're on the air.
Oh, hi, Patty. Thanks for taking my call. We'll try it again.
No problem.
As we head back into fall, Patty, I was reflecting on the events of the summer. What a summer it's been in the city. Wonderful things with our Canada Summer Games and very stressful things with all the fires and people being displaced. You know, I've been going around door to door and talking to a lot of people, and it's been a lot of fun and a lot of learning for me. People are really engaged about 3 major things, but the top 2 are the environment now and public safety. Really on the minds of people, you know, especially with the wildfires and our environment. And as the earth is heating up, what are we going to do if this happens again, and being more prepared and so on. So there's lots of great discussions going on. And, of course, affordability is always on the minds of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, my mind as well. So, Patty, I always want to promote ways to stay well with people. Because physical and mental health opportunities are not always accessible in this city. We have the opening doors happening this weekend, which I love, and it's free. So I love the free events for folks because it's always hard on the pocketbook. And as a ward councillor too, if I get in, you know, I want to focus on things like accessibility and safe spaces for people and affordability. So this weekend, I'm offering yoga free at Bannerman Park at 1 o'clock with all ages, all abilities. We're going to have cheer yoga and also mats. So I will come with some mats and some chairs, but if people have them, bring your own. And of course, people are going to be down around the Colonial Building, right, checking it out. So my yoga is 1 o'clock, but it's a great way to, you know, be in nature, move your body, and have some good discussion with me. It's sort of a meet and greet, but with a spin of, you know, how we move our body and stay well, you know?
Absolutely. I got a bit of body movement stuff coming up here this afternoon. I can't wait to get out into the sunshine. So, Brenda, good on you for doing. When is the yoga opportunity?
Yeah, so Sunday, September September 7th at Bannerman Park, just to the right of the loop. You'll see us. We're going to have some really healthy snacks and beverages for people. And, we're going to do cheer yoga and mat yoga, so both options. Maybe you and your wife might take it in, Patty. You mentioned you're going to be in the hood at the Colonial Building. Who knows?
I've never done yoga, but you know what? I've been tempted, whether it be for my own strength and most importantly, flexibility, because I once was able to be a lot more flexible than I am these days, and people keep recommending yoga to me, so it's on my list to consider.
Well, maybe you'll come down. I just only got my yoga teacher's training 2 years ago now, and it was the best thing I ever did. My core strength developed. And I always say, even to my kids who are into lots of sports and friends, it's injury prevention. And as we age, and, we're pretty close to the same vintage, I'm aging, I need to do yoga to help with all that stretching, and that keeps me well. And, you're not busting ligaments here, there, and everywhere. So I love to meet people in Ward 2 and out of Ward 2. Come down. Let's talk, how we improve the city, and let's talk about safety, public safety. Let's talk about affordability, and, let's talk about the environment. So, and anything else that's on the mind of people coming down to yoga, I'm all about it. Lots of learning, lots of information. I just love to, I've been really enjoying going door to door, Patty, every night and meeting people and learning what the issues are in each different area. It's quite something, but these are three topics that keep coming up in every area: the environment, public safety, especially, and affordability. So I look forward to seeing everybody on Sunday, and if it's raining, we'll make it for next Sunday. And I'll get back on and tell your listeners, more details about that next Sunday. But hopefully I'll see you, Patty.
Maybe so, Brenda. I appreciate the time. Thanks a lot.
I'll for you.
Okay.
Thanks, Patty.
All right, you're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Let's go to line number 1. Keith, you're on the air.
Good morning, Patty.
Morning to you.
You can hear me okay, can you?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. Go right ahead.
I think yoga is a great thing to do. It might help. Mindfulness is also important with yoga. It could help you with dealing with some of the topics you're forced to deal with on a day-to-day basis.
Fair enough.
I'm calling this morning with regard to a proposed wind development stretching from the area pretty well behind Clarenville all the way out to the Isthmus out to Canspo. I can attempt to say the indigenous name of the project. Tuklook Utik Avalon Isthmus Green Energy Project is the name of the project. That's currently it actually closed. They were looking for public input on the environmental assessment for this project. Strangely enough, the month of August, and it closed on the Tuesday after Labor Day weekend. I don't know how many people got, of the public who don't have. It's a really busy time of the year, and people have vacation season and everything else, and myself and others, and have advocated to have the public aspect of this process stretched out a little bit. Like, give people a chance to respond. Have a look at the project and respond to it and give ample time. So the schedule right now is, as we requested for it to be extended. Haven't heard a sound, so I suspect it won't be extended to be able to have some public input on it. But the minister is supposed to make a decision now, 10 days after the public portion closes. It seems pretty expedited to me. I don't know, but probably that's normal.
I'm not so sure. So I don't know a whole lot about this proposal. So is this simply wind generation for electricity, or is this wind generation for these all hydrogen projects?
I'll give you a bit of background on it. I'm calling now as a private citizen today, but I do, as you know, I'm a councillor with the town of Clarenville, and this company, ABO Energy, started meeting with us over a year.
Oh, ABO. Okay, I know that one.
Just as a more or less feeling out, I guess, the climate of the neighborhood, pardon the pun, and just to see, what areas, they could I guess head off any further future problems that they might encounter with regards to dealing with residents or eliminate roadblocks, I suppose, before they occur. And the original proposal was to partner with Brea and to build use the hydrogen that would be created with these windmills. Process, the power that would be created to produce hydrogen, and actually use the hydrogen on site in Brea's process in Cumberland, which I and many others thought was a phenomenal idea. I said, since I've been hearing about hydrogen production in North America and around the world, I think talking about shipping hydrogen to converting it to ammonia, shipping it to Germany or somewhere, and then converting it back again, it didn't seem to be, like a good idea to me, profitable at all. But anyway, I thought using it on site, excellent idea. Anyway, as I guess the business world changed, Brea decided to go their own with their hydrogen production on site, and with a different wind development project entirely that neighbors this one, which caused ABO, I guess, to look at their project and what they would do, and they reduced the size of the project somewhat and more. And we more or less said, we were looking at the map that they gave us, and it was right on top of an environment behind Clarenville. As you know, Clarenville is a pretty active and pretty outdoorsy town, and not only Clarenville, the region around Clarenville. A lot of people enjoy the backcountry snowmobiling, ATVs, cottage areas, like hunting and fishing. Like there's a lot of untouched and natural environment behind our area. You can get on when the conditions permit, you can get on a snow machine behind Clarenville or in your back step, and you can go to Bay d'Espoir if you want to on the open country. Like you're actually on the high country in Newfoundland and Labrador. So they come and we said, like this is a major cottage area. You got a lot of weekenders out there pretty well on the rail bed and behind the rail bed, behind Clarenville, Northwest Brook, Hillview area, and you might want to avoid going there with your development. So they said, we appreciate the information, took it back, and as things transpired, so here we are back in these stages now with a public engagement time. They're saying that the outcome, the new maps, and we were up to a meeting at one of the hotels in Clarenville there over the spring, early to spring. And lo and behold, the new footprint for the development, you have a guess where it's going to go. Smack dab right on top of the exact area that we advised them to avoid.
Understood, Keith. I appreciate the time. Anything else before I take my final break of the week?
Yeah, I got a few things. Like I'd encourage people to get out and have a look at this project. There's a lot there's a lot to take in. You're talking about 516 wind turbines behind in this area, stretching from Clarenville to Chatsworth, the bulk of which 402 are going to be directly around Black River Pond, Tug Pond, and behind Clarenville. There's cabins everywhere. These wind turbines are 200 meters high. You're talking about 600-foot turbines. The entire footprint of this project is 108,000 hectares. So you got people who enjoy that country and enjoy being in there. They're going to be drastically affected by it. So if the public consultation process is over right now, then I'd suggest people to get on their computers or their letter writing and start contacting their MHAs, which a lot of us have already done. But we're not hearing much back, I guess, election time and everything else. But a lot of these things, you got 7 substations going to be out there, each requiring 36-hectare footprint. Wastewater, 3,000 to 4,000 cubic meters of wastewater a day. And the rivers and streams and ponds that this wastewater is going to be collected in has not yet been determined. What you see a lot during the environmental proposal that they've put in is further engineering details are required to determine where a lot of these things are going, including turbines and roads and substations, quarrying areas. They don't know exactly what quarrying they're going to be doing to build the roads, where they're going to be, how many of them that are going to be. Even things like the storage tank design. What they're going to do, they're going to produce hydrogen with these windmills. They're going to, somewhere at around, I guess, the Come By Chance area, they're going to put the hydrogen in storage tanks until it can be converted to ammonia and shipped somewhere else. That's the new plan, is to ship it all overseas. None of it is going to be used locally. And there's a whole lot of things that haven't been determined about where these things are going. And one thing that stands out to me, and is stated several times in the environmental assessment, is that they have no port to ship these things from. The port is going to be owned by a third party. I don't know who it's going to be. Maybe it's Brea, maybe it's North Atlantic. Who knows? Maybe they're going to build their own jetty out for Central Bay somewhere. But the third party, that is a separate environmental assessment altogether. So if you assume that these environmental assessments are gauged on their own independent, if they're their own merits, if you assume, like, what if they go ahead and approve this environmental assessment that we're looking at here now, and then the separate assessment, say for a jetty, let's say, for example, hypothetically speaking, is not approved, then why go through all this work and tear up of the environment and then have nowhere to ship your product? So you can't help but wonder, like, when this gets past the public stage and the public has no input on this, we all know that things can change in a hurry, or things can change and the public has no input on it after that. We're going to trust a government department or political influence or influence from a company on the government to determine exactly how this is going to be end up looking in our back country, our backyard. Like, I know when they put the transmission line across from Muskrat Falls, it changed for me. It changed what I'm looking at when I'm driving the highway. I'm looking in the country, or if I'm in back on my snow machine or my ATV enjoying the country. It changed what I'm looking at.
Understood.
I didn't like it.
No, I don't think anyone likes the eyesores of transmission lines, even though there's only one way to get the power to the customer. But Keith, I do have to get running. I'm late for the break, but I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for giving me a chance to talk about it.
No problem,
Have
Keith.
A good day.
You too.
Have a good
Bye-bye.
weekend.
Yeah, thank you. You too. All right, final break of the morning and week. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Final word this morning and this week goes to Barry on 1. Barry, you're on the air. Hi, Barry.
Oh, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to call. I want to mention about Leila Evans. Got on their radio station a couple of days ago. I just wanted to applaud her for clarifying the Liberals' stipulations regarding the discount flights for Labradorians. I feel, as Leila do, this is nothing but a vote grab. The Liberals' announcement made for a nice headline, but like a lot of the government announcements nowadays, the devil's in the details. For Labradorians, I feel like rather than throwing us a bone, why not deal with the heart of the problem and implement something like anti-gouging policy for the airlines? I think I heard something on there a while ago from Lab West saying that they had to pay $1,600 to go from Lab West to St. John's, which is ridiculous. You know as well as I do, you pretty well go around the country, around the world for that price. Anyway, I just wanted to get on there and mention about Leila. I thought she did a great job in clarifying the stipulations. She seems like a politician for the people, not a politician for the party. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. So the issue is it's 175 round trip tickets per week. The special base fare, 30% discount, begins immediately. But, as Miss Evans rightfully pointed out, that there are restrictions and there are ceilings on this. So let me read what she said. And this is where it's misleading, is that a person can only avail of this subsidy for 2 trips a year. So it's not like whenever you need to travel or when things come up. So there's some restrictions. That was the important point that was lost in the news release, we'll call it.
Yeah, and I would appreciate it if the Liberals, Liberal member, I should say, if she actually pointed out the stipulations on her own rather than Leila having to get on there and explain the full details of that. I mean, the highlights were great, yeah. Oh, discounts for Labradorians, but really, I mean, there's a lot more to it than that.
And we're glad that you came on the show. Accurate information is what we strive for here. Barry, you've had the last word. Have a great weekend. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you. You too.
Okay, thanks, buddy. Bye-bye. All right, good show today and all week. Big thanks to all hands, and we will indeed pick up this conversation again on Monday morning, right here on VOCM and Big Land FM's Open Line. On behalf of the producer, David Williams, I'm your host, Paddy Daly. Have yourself a safe, fun, happy weekend. Talk Monday. Bye-bye.